Japan is hosting the G7 summit. India has been invited to attend the outreach summit. With me, the spokesperson of the Japanese Foreign Ministry. Ma'am, welcome to WION. It's a pleasure to speak to you here in Hiroshima. My first question, an obvious question, is how do you see India-Japan relationship? We have seen high-level engagements. Your Prime Minister was in India. Now the Indian Prime Minister travels to Japan.
India has been and always will be an important partner for Japan. Japan and India share the fundamental values such as freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. And under the special strategic and global partnership, we've been deepening our bilateral cooperation in a wide range of fields, including politics, security, economic cooperation, as well as people-to-people exchanges. And we see a lot of progress being made in this arena. Let me give you some example. In politics and security arena, we've been seeing positive and active security cooperation. We have had the second round of the so-called 2+2 meeting, ministerial level. And also, we have just had the successful first ever joint fighter drill among the two, defense authorities. And economically, Prime Minister Kishida, at his first visit as a Prime Minister to India, actually set the goal of contributing 5 trillion Japanese yen in both public and private financing to India. And I'm pleased to tell you that, those goals has been implemented really smoothly. And as for the people-to-people exchanges, the two leaders designated 2023, this year, as a Japan-India tourist exchange year, as sort of a tool to revitalize the post-pandemic people-to-people exchanges. And not only bilaterally, but also in the international arena, Japan and India are important partners for the realization of a common goal. That is to say, the realization of the free and open Indo-Pacific.
Free and open Indo-Pacific. The Japanese Prime Minister gave his vision about free and open Indo-Pacific from New Delhi. This is something that is remembered. But coming to the G7 summit, you have invited India. What's the reason of inviting India to attend the summit? And how do you see the presence of the Indian Prime Minister at the G7 outreach summit?
We wholeheartedly welcome the presence of Prime Minister Modi to this G7 Hiroshima summit, not only because India is an important bilateral partner for Japan, but also India has been a really active global player. And this year, India served as a chair of the G20, which is another important international framework. And it is increasingly important for G7 countries to enhance engagement with the emerging and developing countries, so sometimes called Global South. And some of the sort of main actors of those Global South, so-called Global South countries are the member of G20. So it would be really critical for G7 members chaired by Japan, to have a more enhanced engagement with the G20 members. So that is one of the reasons why we decided to invite India to this Hiroshima summit.
Japan is hosting the G7 summit. What are the key priorities for the Japanese presidency of this grouping, which is a grouping that is seen as a lead grouping when it comes to international governance?
Now, the international community is at a historic turning point. We have experienced the worldwide pandemic, COVID-19, and also have witnessed Russia's aggression against Ukraine, which shaken really badly the very foundation of the international community. So Japan, as a chair of G7, would like to make this forum as an important opportunity and a venue for the G7 members together with the like-minded partners, including India, to demonstrate the strong will or determination to uphold the international order, which is free and open and based on the rule of law. And also, because this summit is to be held in Asia, and in particular in the city of Hiroshima, it will be a great opportunity for the world to see the worldwide commitment, including the G7 and like-minded countries, the commitment to realizing the world without nuclear weapons.
World without a nuclear weapon, that has been the focus of Japan for a long time. But essentially, during this summit, how much focus will be on resolution of global conflicts? The Russia-Ukraine conflict, of course, will be dominating, but also in the Indo-Pacific, there are worries of countries being aggressive. How much that will be part of conversation?
Let me clarify first that the situation in Ukraine is not a conflict between the two countries. It is, the outrageous aggression by Russia against Ukraine. And it's a clear violation of the international law, including the UN Charter, the respect of sovereignty or territorial integrity, those fundamental principles. So, of course, the situation in Ukraine will be an important topic, but we see the things like, Ukraine today can be the East Asia tomorrow, and it is important for the world leaders to show the world their strong will to uphold the international order based on the rule of law on this occasion.
Ma'am, you just said Ukraine today could be East Asia tomorrow. Do you see a country which is very aggressive, not only in East Asia, but also with India as well? How do you see that? Any reaction to that? Because there is a worry for India as well over a specific country.
In fact, as you mentioned, the international community is now facing a very severe and complex security environment. So it is very important for all the countries to get united to address to those sort of global challenges.
Global challenges. We know that Quad summit was to happen. It got cancelled because of President Biden's own domestic commitments. So any plans to hold the Quad meeting here in Hiroshima? Because all the Quad leaders will be present. You have invited Australia as well.
In fact, I'm aware of the Prime Minister Bajini's remarks, and we are now working on with the other Quad members, but I don't think the date hasn't been, the time and the venue hasn't been fixed yet.
But it's expected to happen here in Hiroshima over the next few days when the leaders will be here, the Quad summit, which could not happen in Sydney?
Well, all I can say at this stage is that we are in the process of coordination for the venue and the date.
Ma'am, a last question regarding India. When it comes to India-Japan partnership, we know that there have been various sectors where these countries have been working together. Partnership in third countries also focus of India and Japan. If you can elaborate on any specific projects both countries have taken when it comes to third country.
Of course, India and Japan are the member of Quad framework. So, of course, the collaboration among the four countries will be very important to realize the free and open Indo-Pacific through various tangible projects to, for example, to enhance the connectivity or to protect the global health in the region and things like that. I'm sure that the Quad framework will be an important so-called force for good.
Ma'am, basically my question was on India-Japan relationship, partnership, connectivity. Your Prime Minister talked about the vision of Indo-Pacific. How both countries are working together when it comes to not only Indo-Pacific but also connectivity. We know about the Japanese port, the Matabari port in Bangladesh. If you can elaborate on these projects which Japan is taking in the wider Indo-Pacific region.
Well, at the previous summit meeting held last March, Prime Minister Kishida actually reassured to Prime Minister Modi that Japan is always ready to help stabilize or enhance connectivity in the region. So we are now working on the various projects, including the regional partners. So we'll see. We would always ready to collaborate with India to bring about more stable and more prosperous region.
Anything about the bullet train, the high-speed train, which the Japanese are helping build in India, and, which is something that many are keen as well, that they would like to board it as well soon?
Well, obviously, at the last summit meeting, the signing ceremony was held, and the loan project was a really mega-sized project, I think equivalent to the 300 billion Japanese yen. So we are very much hopeful that this project will bring about, the even more robust growth in India.
Well, thank you, ma'am. It was a pleasure speaking to you here in Hiroshima.
Thank you very much for having me.
With video journalist Siddhant for WION in Hiroshima, Japan.